live show where we're going to be talking about this week's news, Nathan.
Yeah, it's not exactly our first live show ever, but this is the first time we've done this type of format for a live news update.
Well, you said that much better than I did.
Yeah,
We're calling these the top 10 things you need to know in this week's news. And thanks to our producer and videographer, Zach and Ian, we are going to be talking about the coolest, most fun, and most interesting car news and truck news of the week. And we're going to be giving a little bit of perspective and hopefully having a little bit of fun with it.
Fingers crossed. Let's see what we can do.
All right, well, in TFL fashion, we always start at number 10 and work our way down to number 1. So at number 10 has got to be the story, Nathan. And I think this could be, gosh, the story of the month, if not the story of the year. Ford just dropped, get this, a 700 horsepower from the factory supercharged kit that you can buy for $12,300, have it installed at your local Ford dealership, and get this, 700 horsepower out of a Coyote-powered F-150.
There are a few things you have to keep in mind. Now, first of all, the good news. This is something that is warranty covered, so it actually will have a real warranty connected to it. So both the workmanship and the components themselves will be covered, which is something important. Also, very important is that it only goes on certain types of vehicles, specifically the ones that have a Coyote V8 5-liter. Cannot get this with an EcoBoost, which makes sense because the EcoBoost is a twin turbocharged V6 for the most part.
Yeah, but just think about the implications of this, right? So you got to, there's more caveats, right? It's legal in all 50 states, which is cool. And they give you a 3-year, like you said, 36,000 mile warranty. But let's say that you want to get close to Raptor R numbers. You can do it for, let's do some calculating. Let's figure it out. How much do you think if you buy a base, let's say call it an XLT F-150
With the Coyote.
With the Coyote, do you think that starts at? And I know that number, so I've already kind of
$52,000.
48 because they're offering very good. They're offering actually $4,000 off right now on those.
So that would be exactly. I hit it right, and then $4,000.
Yeah. So you start at 48.
Okay.
Then you add the $12,000 to it.
Okay, so you're at 60.
And now you got to obviously pay for the installation.
Yes.
So I don't know how much a dealer's going to.
I'm going to estimate about $3,000 to install it.
Let's say 3 to 5. So for $65,000, you can get 700 horsepower that can be rolled into your loan, right? That's just a few horsepower short of a Raptor R.
But there are a couple other things. Now, you may have noticed in the photo behind us, that is a lowered street truck with street wheels and tires and a street suspension.
The Lightning, the first Lightning.
The real Lightning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's not an off-road truck. So don't think that you're going to be able to take this and necessarily roll it into an off-road truck unless you're willing to spend the extra money to put on the beefy suspension, beefy tires, beefy wheels, and all that. This is a street truck, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because there's a lot of people out there who really don't want a super capable off-road truck. They want a super capable on-road truck. And with 700 horsepower and the right type of tires, you may actually hook up and be faster than a Raptor R.
Yeah, you probably would be, especially if you've got street tires.
Well, less weight for one thing.
Yeah, those 37s on the Raptor R aren't going to do any favors.
No, and all the suspension goodies that you have on the Raptor R and everything else, I have a feeling this is significantly lighter, and I think your contact patch in the rear might be better. Also, yes, you can get it on rear drive and 4-wheel drive.
God, the 2-wheel drive would be crazy.
Yeah, you just sit there and roast them, but they'll do it.
All right, you also get those wheels, and there's 2 versions of it. There's like a midnight version where basically the truck is blacked out, and you get those stickers. You see those stickers on the side?
Yeah, if you look very carefully, you can see these stickers on the side, and they say Ford Performance.
Of course they say Performance.
Well, I don't know. I'm not wearing my glasses.
So how much do you think the box of goodies costs? Well, you know how much it costs, $12,300, but how much do you think it weighs?
I'm going to guess like more than what was there before, because remember, you're replacing wheels as opposed to just adding wheels. So I'm going to say it's an additional 400 pounds.
430 pounds, very good. So you get this 430-pound box, but keep in mind, it's not just a supercharger, right? You're going to need an intercooler, you're going to need a bigger radiator. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, right?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of plumbing.
Yeah, I was looking at the website, and there's a lot of bits and pieces to do this. It's not just like, hey, where's the supercharger, bloom.
Yep, that's right. But if you get an ASC certified installer, so it has to be ASC certified, or else you might blow the warranty, then they can put it in for you. So maybe you can work a deal with your local mechanic.
Yeah, or work a deal with your local dealership. I am so tempted to go and actually buy like a used F-150. It's got to be 2021. or newer. It's got to be a Coyote, like you said, and actually do this as, you know, the return of the classic Lightning, not the electric Lightning.
Yeah, we probably have to come up with a better name so it's not confusing with the whole electric truck thing. But it's really cool. I grew up in California, right? Southern California. Street trucks were all the rage when I was younger. A lot of people, I mean, that's where the original Lightning was, the Chevy SS, and of course, you know, the Ram with its V10 and all that stuff. These trucks thrived in that environment. So seeing a return to something like this for a lot of you guys out there, I'm really happy for the truck community.
Yeah, and I was kind of digging around on the on the Ford Performance website. You know, they've been doing this for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
You can also get a kit for older trucks. It doesn't put out as much horsepower, it's 650, but that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper because you don't get the wheels, you don't get the stickers. So it's like $7,300 for the older Coyotes. But yeah, I think this is just a hell of a deal. Now, here's a question for you guys out there. Let us know in the comments below. And I got Zach over there reading the comments. So as you know, Andre and I recently did a video. It's over at All TFL, and so is our announcement. If you want to dig deep into this, check out alltfl.com, where it goes to our website or to the video that me and Andre did. But you know, there's a video of a new Silverado 2500 gasser, the 6.6.
Yeah.
And he brought this into the office and he's like, hey, I want to buy this. And then I was like, okay, because it's time to sell Stumpy, right? Our classic work truck. We've had it almost, 7, 8 months, and we're kind of done with it. So I thought, well, maybe we can trade that in on this Silverado gasser. And then this news came out. So the question is, what should we do? Should we get what Andre would like to see, a heavy-duty gasser, or should we get one of these and try to build out our own street racer?
Look, you know where my head is on this. It's a question really for you guys, because maybe you can help. You know, I'm the idiot in the room, and I just want to go fast and have fun. Andre is very practical and pragmatic about his approach towards trucks, which is why he's established such a good rapport on his truck channel, because he's trying to bring you everything that is viable in that world. And so maybe a heavy-duty truck is the way to go. I won't say it is. I will say a fun truck is the way to go.
You know what's amazing about this kit? I mean, think about, okay, so you're going to get, obviously, intercoolers, piping, right? But the transmission's got to handle that much torque and horsepower, right?
I wonder if there's some sort of flash that you put in it for the transmission. I don't know. I've looked it over. I haven't seen it.
But I'm saying it's got to be able to handle it, right? Because they're warrantying it. The drive shafts have to handle that. The half shafts, right? I mean, that's pretty impressive that Ford is so confident in the F-150 that you could. I think the Coyote's like 450-ish. Zach, am I right? Do you know? Are you close? Am I close to it?
400-ish horsepower.
400 horsepower. So you're adding 300 more horsepower, which normally means like things downstream brake, right? But apparently they feel confident enough to run that power through the transmission, through the diffs, through the half shafts, through the drive shaft. I mean, the wheels are roast, but that's okay.
Yeah. Before we finish this topic, I will say this. The Coyote V8 is on my top 5 favorite V8s. It's currently that's been going into trucks. It's a fantastic engine. We've always said it is. And the fact that they've finally given it some love instead of making it go away, which is initially what we thought, I think that's huge.
So how about this cutting plan? How about we buy the kit and slap it on a Mustang?
That's a really good idea. Enjoy that. Yeah, with a manual transmission, make that even harder.
I don't think that'd be factory warranted.
Hey, Toby, dude, are you sitting down?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. We've got a little bit of work for you.
Yeah, wow. Well, I have a feeling that maybe they'll follow it up with something.
All right, let's go to number 9, dude.
Before we do that, let's get to some comments.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So there are some people in the comments going, this 700 horsepower kit looks tempting. Also asking, can you do it on a Tremor? Yes, you can, on a Coyote Tremor. You can do it on any application of the 5.0.
As long as it is equipped with the modern 5.0, and not an older one, but yeah, from 2001 on, 2021 on, sorry. Yeah.
For this current kit, yeah. So you could do it single cab, 4x4. People are asking about that. You could do it. That might be a little scary. Something with that short of wheelbase.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. It'll be remarkably dangerous, which will be great.
Yeah, but you won't be able to take your friends along.
Who cares?
I do. I want to bring
one friend is good. One friend.
Or if you get the like the row, right?
The bench.
The bench. Yeah.
Yeah, two friends. Fine.
2 friends. Yeah.
Oh, come on. It'll be a lot of fun.
Also, just want to mention there are some folks asking about stuff that isn't part of the news. We'll come back to that after we get through.
Okay, so you're going to put a pin in that, and
Yeah,
then
we'll
we'll
put
bring.
a
Okay.
pin in that. We'll come back to it.
Yeah, we'll,
Okay.
we'll
So
answer-
stay tuned. We will answer your questions.
All right, number 9, Nathan.
Ba-ding.
That is the new Chevy Camaro Collector Edition, just announced today. And as you know, that is the 6th generation Camaro, and I feel and I fear that we're going to be saying goodbye to it.
Yeah, this is pretty much it. Camaro's going away. We
In
know it is.
January.
January. But there's a little bit more to this. So first let's talk about this, and then I have a little something to add to that.
Right, well, so you can get the collector's edition in many of the different varieties of Camaros, but the one you want, because this is the Black Panther edition, so look at the paint, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Very Black Pantherish. The one you want is the ZL1. And on top of that, if you want to get that, it's $15,000, Nathan.
That's it?
15 on top of it, yeah.
Oh.
So, and so you're looking at about $90,000 in total, and they're building only 350 of them.
Oh, that's, oof, that hurts. So I have something to add to that.
Yeah, go for it.
So the upcoming, and very, very soon upcoming, 24 Hours of Le Mans
Yeah.
is going to feature a one-off Camaro,
Get out.
NASCAR Camaro.
Okay.
And it's in a special division that's all on its own. There'll be a lot of coverage, and you're going to be able to see that during the 24 Hours of Le Mans. That thing is going to be racing, and it's sort of a debut car, and they kind of want to connect NASCAR with Le Mans because they're both, organizations have been around for a very long time. So that's one of the reasons they're doing it.
Boy, you are stretching the.
No, but I was just telling you this. But on top of that,
bunch of Frenchies.
no.
with
One of the
baguettes.
drivers is American. Another driver is British, and his name is Jensen Button.
Hold on. Okay, all right, hold on. Le Mans is a 24-hour race that goes around a lot of turns with classic
One of the
names.
most amazing races in the world.
Right, and a bunch of Frenchies partying all night,
With plenty of other people.
drinking wine. Daytona, right, is a
If
bunch of
you-
rednecks
if-
drinking whiskey, going
Okay.
around a circle.
First of all, and they do have some road courses, but the whole point here is that one of the best races in the world is about to have a NASCAR featured Camaro, and that's going to be it. And one of the drivers is Jensen Button, someone who I have met, and he's one of the coolest drivers ever.
All right, well, let's get back to the news here.
All right.
But thank you. So I remember when we got to test the ZL1 and you fell in love with it. How much is that? I mean, it's so black. It's like a bat in a cave, right? You can't see it.
It's like a Spinal Tap album. How black is it? None more black. It's as black as darkness.
So is this pulling at your heartstrings? Do you have if you had $90,000, would you be putting down money on one of the first 350?
I love everything about the Camaro except sitting in it.
Yeah,
I do.
know.
I'm sorry. I can't see out of the car very well. Now, I know some of you guys have complained and go, oh, there's other cars out there hard to see out of. The Camaro, to me, is still one of the hardest cars to see out of. And if you jump in one of these and then jump into the equivalent Mustang or the equivalent Challenger, you're going to find that you're much more comfortable than those other two cars. I'm sorry. So, no, I wouldn't do that as much as I absolutely adore the powertrain.
So I got to tell you this story. I remember when this generation of Camaro came out and they started kind of making it much more of a, let's say, a road performance-oriented vehicle versus a straight line, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They took us to that racetrack that's like kind of just outside of Vegas in Pahrump.
Yeah.
And they put me on the track with that car with kind of a lead follow. And I was so terrified, Nathan. I've never been more terrified on a track than that. That car is so blindingly quick and so blindingly capable that you put it in the hands of somebody like me who has the lack of skill of most on a track that I just felt so far over my head. So let me fast forward to a couple years later when the Mustang GT 500 came out, and we were once again in Vegas, but this time at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, which is the one that is next to Vegas, right? Yep. And they put us on the track, and I was so scared of that car, right? 760 horsepower, and yet it was a pussycat on the track. So I don't pretend to be a race car driver, but the Mustang just seemed much more, even though it had more power, even though it had, the GT 500 Shelby moniker, which should be scary. It was, like I said, it was a pussycat. I felt completely comfortable going to let's say 70% of its ability. The Camaro terrified the pants off of me. And I don't know why that is. Maybe we need to give it to Paul to figure that out. Maybe the Camaro is just much of a sharper tool and I'm, a dull driver. Could be.
So, you're
enough.
right
I'll
about
take
tool.
it.
You're
I'll
not
take
the
it.
sharpest tool.
I'll take it.
The Camaro was fantastic to drive, just hard to see out of. And a long time ago, Zach and I went and actually sampled a V6 and 4-cylinder turbo version of it, and even those cars drove really, really well. They adhered to the track, they pulled nicely, they were brilliant around the corner. But once again, just hard to see out of. That was really the only issue. Not being able to see when you're driving, I guess this is an issue for some people. But you know what? As much as you love that Mustang and as good as this Camaro are, neither of them hold a candle to another little bit of news that's coming out soon.
Are we going number 8?
I think that's...
Let's, before we do that, any comments, Zach? We should talk about the Camaro?
Just general comments about the Camaro itself. Papa says, I had a friend who loved this Camaro, but I had to sell it. That's unfortunate.
Happens.
Yeah. I think we're good for the time.
Okay.
There was a question of will this compete with the 2024 Mustang and Dark Horse, and we're still talking about the same gen Camaro, so it will
Sort of
this
compete.
is the most direct competitor that GM has.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's a good segue. Number 8, Nathan, and this is good news for all of you manual fans, right? Today, Dodge announced that they are finally allowing you to go configure a 717 horsepower Hellcat with a manual. Right?
Manual
But there's
transmission.
a catch.
What's the catch?
Well, Dodge has also announced that they're going to be building Hellcat power plants until the very last day of the year, which obviously is December 31st. And once they stop building them, even if you've ordered yours, if they run out of time, you will not get yours.
You are out of luck.
You are out of luck. So they'll build until the end of the year, but if they can't get through the orders, then of course you're not going to be getting your.
I'm pretty sure they'll compensate you or whatever, it's pay you back, or I would imagine so. But look at the fine print when you go to order one of these. But the most important thing is the manual has returned. Now, why did it disappear in the first place? Because the clutches were exploding and other problems.
Well, let's face it.
There's too much power.
Yeah, that car is.
That's just so much power.
We've both driven it.
Yeah.
On the track, on the
love
road.
it.
And it's if you want to do an 11 in 5th gear, this is a car to do it in.
I think it's a pussycat.
But it's like very hard to hook up that much power with the manual. It's actually very hard to hook up that much power with an automatic.
Yeah, well, yeah, but with the wide body kit and with a little bit of skill and the lack of being old farts like us, I think you guys would enjoy a car like this. And most importantly, it's one of the few that actually has a proper manual transmission. And it should be better than the one that it's from the past that had some issues.
You know what? I'm seeing a resurgence of manuals. There seems to be like companies now that are coming back with manuals, and people are once again like actually maybe it's because electric cars most likely won't have or don't have manual transmissions.
For the most part, I just sincerely doubt it. Although there's a rumor that Toyota's tinkering with something, but the whole thing is also, I think, people are beginning to realize, wait a minute, I actually enjoy driving, and to enhance my experience from going to point A to point B, having a manual transmission allowing me to have a little bit more control and connection with my car is a good thing, and I agree with you.
Yeah, and here's what happened, right? When we were kids, manuals were two things. They were more fuel efficient, and they were quicker.
And cheaper.
Because you had to pay for an automatic. And then both those, or all three of those things got kind of turned on their heads. So manuals became slower, which is a bummer. They became less fuel efficient.
And more expensive in some cases.
In some cases, people were actually starting to charge more. You had to pay more for the manual option. Like in a Porsche, it comes with the automatic. You got to pay for the manual.
Well, same thing goes with a Mazda. If you get the Mazda 3, which our beloved leader Zach did, he had to pay more to get the top, or not the very top, but nearly the top version of the Mazda 3 in order to get the manual transmission instead of getting the base model.
By the way, for all you Porsche fans out there, I had a chance a couple of years ago to drive the 911 with the 7-speed manual. Don't get it. You don't need it unless you live on the Autobahn. You don't really need that 7th gear. I found myself like never going into 7th at all. Right, 6 is the perfect number for a manual. 7 maybe like as an overdrive gear when you're doing 200 miles an hour on the Autobahn, but in America, there's just no, I even like on the highway, I was like, okay, what's the difference between 6th and 7th? There really was no difference, right? Oh, come on. I'm just trying to pass along some wisdom for all of you people out there who are,
saying no to a manual transmission.
No, I'm saying say no to the 7th gear. I'm not saying say no to the manual.
I will find a reason to use that 7th gear.
What are you going to use it?
on a stretch of highway going in some sort of desert, I'll figure it out.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the sixth gear might actually be quicker than seventh gear.
Well, yeah.
You know what
The
I'm
whole
saying?
point of the seventh gear is just a nice lopping thing where you're probably going 1,200 RPM at 200 miles per hour on the
The
Autobahn.
problem is 6 is very, right, it's a beautiful, like, you know, double H pattern, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then 7 is just, you forget about it. It's just sitting there, kind of out in its own, doing
That's why
nothing.
people get tattoos of manual transmissions on their wrists.
Nobody gets 7. Dog leg, a dog leg 5
Let us know in
speed
the
is
comments
great.
below if you actually get a 7th gear on your thing. Because there's more than one 7-speed manual transmission now.
Anyway, very much a first world problem.
It is really a first world problem. It's a problem I wish I had.
I was this weekend, I went to look at a Mustang and we were looking for an S197 to buy because we just had the previous generation and I was driving a 5-speed, which was, you know, 1 less than 6, obviously, 2 less than 7. And I thought that was plenty as well. But, you know, nowadays, the more the merrier, I guess.
Before I modified my 65 Mustang, it had a 3-speed manual
Huh?
with
Wow.
amazingly
Is that what-
long throws. No, on the floor.
Was that-
On the floor, it's just really long throws. Then I put it at 4-speed later. But yeah, things change. In honesty, you really don't need that many gears to actually move. It's a question of smooth and efficient and of course power delivery. So let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Yeah, any comments, Zach, that we should hit
Oh.
up? Any?
So I'm collecting the other ones for later on.
Okay.
One kind of pertinent question is, did FCA Stellantis build the Chrysler minivan SRT8? It was going around on the internet for a while. People are clamoring for a Hellcat Pacifica.
Yeah,
While
that was
we're
it.
in the Hellcat
Yeah,
everything era.
and we'll go over, there's more Stellantis stuff that I think we're gonna get to in a minute.
Yeah, there's some Jeep stuff actually.
Yeah, a couple, and what we'll do is we'll circle back to that a little bit, but honestly, that was not a Stellantis thing, that was a private thing, that build.
Yeah. Cam Faust is asking, will automakers do invoice pricing? So the dealer that mentioned is a dealer in Virginia that was talking about this manual Hellcat. Somebody posted to the Hellcat forum. They said they will do at least 5 of their allocations. The first 5 to come to them at MSRP. So not invoice pricing so much. You still have to pay retail pricing, but at least there's not 10, 20, however much thousand stupid market adjustment. At
In
least
that
it's getting a
particular
little less
case
frequent.
though, yeah.
It's still far too common, but at least it's getting a little less frequent. Ron N was asking, is this the last year for the Chrysler 300
Yes,
and the Dodge Charger?
yes.
Yes, there you go.
All those platforms are going away, so Chrysler 300, Dodge Charger, and the Dodge Challenger, at the end, they're done. They're done at the end.
All right, let's move on to number 7. And this is interesting and exciting news. So Tommy,
Changing gears.
Yeah, changing gears. Tommy went to California last week. Once again, alltfl.com. You can see his video. And VW just unveiled the US spec version of the ID Buzz, Nathan. And what makes it different? It's got a 3rd row.
It's longer too, right?
Yep, it's a little bit longer, 10 inches. And they announced the specs. And they also announced something that was a little shocking. Can you guess what that is?
Not the price.
No, they didn't announce a price, but they announced it won't be available until 3rd quarter of next year as a 2025. I know.
Yeah, they did the same thing with the ID7 as well. So, what is the ID Buzz? Simply put, this is a all-electric minivan. And
They hate the term man.
I know they do, the minibus. I mean, but
that's what they like.
I'm going to say minivan all I want because you're not here. And you guys, that's what you guys would call it as well. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. And what makes it cool, aside from the fact that some people think that it looks a little retro and kind of interesting, well, the inside is very roomy. There's enough room in the 3rd row for proper adults. The 3rd row can be removed, I believe.
Yes.
And there's a lot of utility with this vehicle and range. We even know that it has.
Comes with 2 battery packs.
Yeah, there's 2 separate packs.
I want to say, Zach, do you remember what those are? Ian, do you remember what those are? You were there. It's like
Ian.
it's like a 70 and a 90-ish
Yeah.
back. And so that's my biggest concern. I think this is going to be, if anything, a family hauling, road tripping machine.
Yeah.
But 250 miles of range just does not seem like enough for something that's going to go cross country.
I don't think it's horrible. If they can keep it around 250, I think that would be at least a good start. Now, bear in mind, you can get a rear drive or all-wheel drive. I think the rear drive is the base model with the base battery. And even in that, guys, I'm pretty sure that this van's going to be a little bit on the pricey side. I'm guesstimating around the $50,000 zone,
Oh no, 60.
even for the base model.
I think they're going to try to keep it under 60, like 59.9 for the base model, but
Ugh.
it's going to be at least 60. And that brings
But
up actually
We don't know for sure.
Yeah, we don't know. It hasn't been announced. That brings up two bits of news.
Mm.
Today, I think the CEO of Volkswagen basically kind of warned the dealers not to price gouge. We've seen that before, haven't
Don't
we?
you do it. We'll get mad and use stern words with you.
But I think getting one of these is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I think that Volkswagen has really had no exciting products until this, yeah. And the other confounding thing is, they've been selling the two-row version now for over a year in Europe. Why is it taking so long? Why didn't they move it to Chattanooga? I mean, it's built on the same platform as the ID4.
Well,
They're still going to build it in Europe, which means it doesn't qualify for the 7.5K
Right,
federal.
that's the other problem.
Yeah.
Eventually, hopefully they'll shift something over here. But in terms of the vehicle itself, you and I both agreed that this should have been the lead vehicle in Volkswagen's jump into America with electric vehicles. This should have been first, the European version. I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that in terms of EPA numbers and the Department of Transportation, not a whole lot different between the two vans.
I mean, who's clamoring for the ID7, which is basically a Volkswagen CC electric replacement, right?
Yes.
Why are they building and selling electric sedan, and why aren't they selling this yesterday? That is my biggest question. Is it like parts supply?
I think it's product development screw up. I think that they read the tea leaves wrong. At least they built it, okay? At least it's coming
It
to
took
our
them
market.
forever. Remember we saw this? This was like 2014 or
Yeah.
15 at the auto show.
Yeah, I was one of the first people to jump in it when they had a floating gnome. I kid you not. They had this magnetic gnome on the dashboard that was about the size of the palm of my hand, and it floated, and you could spin it around. And it had something to do with one of the designers, and he found.
So I drove by a local Volkswagen dealership last week. They have like 30 ID4s parked in front. I mean, at some point, this is it's not that hard, Volkswagen. Give people what they want.
Yeah, what you should do is make another ID4 look a little bit like a bug. And maybe you'll sell some of them. Add some personality, for goodness sakes, and you may be able to de-uglify some of these things and make them a little bit more interesting. Now, I think the van is a great idea. It's just their timing's screwed.
There is some good news. They've updated their infotainment, so it's a little bit faster, it's a little bit snappier. Tommy reports, and like I said, you can watch his walk around. They did, get this, they did Volkswagen Mini Bus Day. Remember I said minibus? No.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, and they had something like 200 of the classics there, and Tommy did a great walk
Plus,
around.
you can even see this orange one. I'm pretty sure Tommy is probably in the back of this picture holding onto it tightly.
So apparently, Julio Iglesias, Fluffy, he's a huge fan.
Julio Iglesias?
Not Julio, what's his
Gabriel.
name? Gabriel.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gabriel.
Julio Iglesias is a singer, my friend.
Right, yeah. So Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, right, the
Yeah.
comedian, is a huge fan, and Tommy.
He's got several.
Tommy got to sit with him at dinner.
Cool.
And he appears, Tommy said he tried to interview him, but there was an entourage around him, so he couldn't quite get him. But he is in that video walking around. Huge fan of the microbus. But yeah, Volkswagen, please. It was supposed to come out at the end of this year. Now they're saying third quarter. I don't know what they're going to do in terms of price gouging, because it's going to happen like it happened with everybody else. Maybe they can figure it out before.
Yeah, I hope you guys can figure it out. It's a real shame, and it sucks when people like us are looking at your product and just going, yeah, it's going to be too hard to get.
Anything people are saying out there, Zach?
Real quick, Jules David did a $1.99 super chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
These live shows.
Thanks, Jules.
Thanks, Jules.
We have a bunch of other questions piling up about the Lexus GX, the Toyota Tacoma. What about the Mazda 6?
We'll talk about that at the end.
We'll talk about
Yeah,
that
at the
a
end.
little bit later.
Yeah.
Let me move on. I'm going to skip. We've got two Volkswagen stories, but I'm going to skip one for a second and talk about our friend Mark Allen, which is sad news. So as you know, this is Mark Allen. He's the chief designer for Jeep. And on, let's see, May 30th, I think we got like a Facebook post that as of May 31st, he's retiring.
Yeah.
So my question, of course, is, was he pushed or did he jump? Mark, if you're watching this, text me, let me know. I'd love to have you on the podcast. And we don't have to talk about the politics of it, because I'm sure that there's some non-disclosure agreement.
Mark, I'm willing to give you a job at $17 an hour to be our social media director. Come on, Mark. Come to us. Free food on Tuesdays.
Wouldn't it be better if we give him $17.50 to be like our chief of design? He is a designer. Not that we design
But
cars.
he's been doing that for a million
You
years.
think he wants something different?
He started back in the day when there was black and white TV and stuff like that, and people wore ties
So
every day.
30 years, Nathan. He was 30 years.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the implications, because there are
Yeah.
implications. First of all, he's the guy who kind of held the Jeep DNA in his very capable hands.
Yeah, he really was.
And I really fear for the brand, because I could see a lot of like French CEOs all of a sudden saying, you know, that adventure we have, the two-wheel drive, we need to bring it to America. I can't do a French accent, but
No, you
know
really
what I mean.
can't, and I apologize to French people out there once again for.
Sorry. So I can see a CEO saying like, hey, we need to bring the front-wheel drive Avenger, which actually might work if it was all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive.
Which they say they may do.
But what scares me more is, I think we're going to see like rebranded Peugeots as Jeeps, and that is absolutely not what the DNA of Jeep is.
I would agree, but let's see what happens with the next guys who come in and whether or not they can actually hold back the tide of suits. Now, what happened with Jeep and what's been happening with Jeep and Ram, they have been kind of burning on both ends the candle in order to make sure the brand itself, Stellantis now, survives. The same thing happened with Fiat when Fiat took over. So Fiat, Dodge, Chrysler, they were all kind of hanging off the profits of these other two companies that are all under one roof. And now it's Stellantis, which brings in Peugeot and whatnot. Now, I do hear good things about the potential for their small displacement engines, hybrids, and electric. So they may bring something new to the game, and perhaps we'll see something cool. But at the moment, it is a little scary to think that Jeep might be changing over the next few years.
So the best thing that Mark did, for us at least, was he invited us out to the Easter Jeep Safari to test drive these concepts.
For years.
What other major world brand lets you drive concept vehicles? It never happens.
No, occasionally it does, but only in a small amount. For the most part, Jeep is one of the few that does, and they're beyond concept. There's these one-off crazy vehicles.
But him and his team created.
He had his hand in almost everything that's been created, and he was fully aware of it. He okayed things and everything else. And then sometimes he got to do wild projects with his guys, and sometimes it was just a rolling collection of JPP parts.
Right, but the stuff that he did usually was kind of an Easter egg as to what was coming. So remember, he did some lightweighting. Remember when he first rolled out a Jeep that he had converted into a pickup truck before the Gladiator, right?
Oh, yeah.
Remember when he stuck a diesel into that before the diesel came out? My fear, and I've heard rumors, is that a lot of those concepts are now going to get crushed.
Yeah, that's what I've heard
That they're going away. I would say this, Jeep or Peugeot, if you're listening to me. Stellantis, right? But Peugeot is really running the shot right now.
Stellantis, they like it.
Right, Stellantis. You crush your legacy you should give that some thought. You do that at your own peril. That would be my thing, because at some point, maybe not tomorrow, and maybe not next year, but 5, 10, 15 years from now, you're going to wish you had those concepts. Because
I will give you $100 for every concept you sell to us.
Yeah, TFL. How much do we set aside? They got what? They got like they probably got 50 of those things.
Yeah, so $100.
Yeah.
So $5,000.
Yeah.
We could probably figure that out.
We could
sell off some of Tommy's stuff.
Yeah.
We'll be good. We'll do it.
Or how about this? We'll give you 5,000 for one. You sell us one. You pick.
Oh, I know which one I want.
Which one do you want?
The FC.
Of course, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
The frontal concept.
Yeah.
The redo of that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's totally dangerous as hell too. But that's part of the point. I think
I'm sure they'd sell to us. Yeah.
A lot of the vehicles. Well, you probably have to sign a waiver at the very least. A lot of concepts do get crushed because if they're given to somebody else and somebody dies in it, then there's some serious litigation. There's a lot of potential for bad things. So I think that's one of the reasons they would go away, and perhaps they want to erase their history. Who knows?
But look at this, Nathan. What makes Jeep stand apart from Rivian? It's the fact that it's got all of this history, right?
Yeah, it has a ton of history.
It's got all of this wonderful goodwill that the brand has built up since the Second World War.
Yeah.
And you're going to flush that down the toilet?
Well, let's not base this on a fact, because we don't have the facts yet. So let's just hope that cooler heads prevail and they realize, there's a historical precedent here, and we're going to follow it.
There's a business precedent.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we inhabit this zone and keep it, because right now nobody else has this type of gravitas.
All right, so here's something interesting. Now we're going to go into the gossip section.
Yes, please.
All right, a little bit of gossip. All right. So you know that Volkswagen bought the Scout name,
Yes, I very much know that.
right? Right, and
Yeah.
they're going to come up with an electrified version of the old International Harvester Scout line, right? So they're
Right,
off-roaders.
without that name. They didn't get the name International Harvester, they only got the name Scout.
And that's going to be Scout. And they recently hired a Jeep, I believe it was an interior designer, to help kind of bring that brand back to life.
Yeah,
Who do you think would be pretty perfect for that role? And is
Hans.
now available.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would be my thinking if
Mark, if
Mark,
you go over to the
Volkswagen.
then just keep us in your Rolodex, okay, buddy? And we'll help you out. I will buy you at least one beer.
I can't think of anybody better for that role as chief designer.
Well,
the
but
new brand.
interior design, and I actually got a chance to go behind the scenes. I can't discuss much of it because I had to sign an NDA, but I can say that they're well on their way to designing vehicles for the Scout name. Yes, it's Volkswagen, but it's not a Volkswagen. That I can also say. It's happening.
I'm just putting that idea out there.
Okay.
Into the
Maybe Mark
ether.
wants to retire. He likes motorcycles.
Maybe he wants to go ride motorcycles.
Yeah, which we have here at TFL, and he should come here.
Well, I don't know, man. I like Mark. He's so driven, and imagine having the opportunity to put his own brand on a new brand. All right, Zach, what do you got? Anything, or should we keep going? He's giving me the speed up.
Well, folks, I just don't want to stay too long on one topic.
True that.
One was saying totally agree with Roman's point on Jeep. A couple other folks are saying change is needed later, i.e. hopefully Jeep doesn't change too much
I
in the
agree.
immediate future.
Yeah.
And that's it.
All right,
Oh, okay.
all right, let's keep going. We're back to Volkswagen. So Volkswagen, Nathan, came out with this. It is a special Golf R.
333.
And you know why it's 333?
Because 3 times as ugly as a regular one.
No, because they're building
You
333
said
units.
that like the Mark 8 Golf R is ugly.
Dude,
It's not ugly.
Oh, yes, it's ugly.
So it's-
Zach, you're overruled.
It's once again, just like the Camaro, this is a special edition Golf R. They're only building 333 units. And guess how many minutes it took it to sell out?
How many minutes?
Yep, to sell out. At
30?
82K,
30
8
minutes.
minutes.
8 minutes.
That's what Volkswagen
And this
says.
is an $82,000 car.
Golf R, 82,000.
And how many did they sell?
333.
You know how many of those they sold in America though?
How many?
They didn't sell any in the United States.
Because it's Germany only.
And it's ugly. Nobody wants one of these here. It's an eyesore.
329 horsepower, dude.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
All-wheel
It's-
drive.
I know it's fast. I know it's awesome. And it just, I can't look at it and think of it as a Volkswagen. It looks,
I don't think many Americans will get over that $82,000 hurdle for a Golf.
That's
The
an awful-
Germans apparently have enough money.
well, I mean, the Golf's going to disappear as it currently is. There's going to be an end game for the Golf R, for the GTI. Everything's going to become electric within the next few years. Volkswagen's announced it. So we know what's happening. So this is a limited run car. And is there anything special about it other than its lovely color? Anything special?
It gets a pretty funky exhaust system, so it'll
Aw.
sound pretty awesome. And it gets the power bump.
Okay.
To Roman's point, instead of 315, it's 329.
Look,
Or 333 as Germans measure.
look, here's a weird thing. This is an interesting fact
Okay,
for all you
please.
guys out there. You know how most of the time, like, we don't get the better version or the same version that the Europeans get?
Usually.
You know what I mean? Like remember when the M3 came out, we got the 250 horsepower one, whereas the Europeans had the 300 horsepower
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Remember? And that happens all the time.
Of course it
We
does.
can name like 15 cars where,
Sure.
right? Well, here's something interesting. Did you know that the Germans don't get the manual?
Yeah, I heard that somewhere
Isn't
else.
that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe they're punishing their own people. What did you guys do wrong?
I don't know. It's the craziest thing. Like, here's one case where we actually get both the manual and the automatic, but the Europeans don't get the manual version of this.
Ach, du lieber, Entschuldigung, wie bitte. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, that sucks, but I'm over it already.
Look, I love the Golf R. We had a Mark 6.
Yeah.
I think kind of the sweet point in Golf Rs and GTIs is like the Mark 7.
Yeah, I would agree.
The problem with the current one is not the engine, not the handling, not the design, but the infotainment. It's got that kind of really
Yeah, the
clunky-
infotainment sucks too. I don't know why that's so bad, but I'm really, the headlight design, the front end design to me is just such a letdown from day one. So I'm not a big fan. The rest of the car's fine.
Well, you notice that they got rid of like the honeycomb.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did for this.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, well, whatever. Fortunately, other vehicles that Volkswagen makes look okay. All right.
Look, I just think that we're living in a time where everybody wants to have the unobtainium, right? Everybody wants to have something that nobody else can have, and that's because of course, everybody is an influencer and everybody wants to show off what they've
Sure.
got. That's just what social media has done. So the car companies are taking advantage of this. I mean, Porsche has done it forever, going back to them, right? Having special editions. And some car companies have always had special editions, but now we're getting into like these micro special editions, right?
yeah.
350 Black Panther ZL1s, 333 Golf Rs, 33 33s. It's just, and I don't think it costs them any more money to do a smaller version. And think about that, $82,000 for that.
Yeah.
Versus like, that's almost
That's
twice the.
That's twice of what it's
Yeah.
worth, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's probably worth it to do a very limited run. All right, number 4, Nathan, and this is something that we did over the weekend, at least published, and that's this one.
Flying Tommies.
Yeah, we just did a drag race, and I kind of felt like it didn't get enough views promoting it, and that is, which one do you think is faster, the brand new BMW M2 or the Tesla Model 3 Performance in a drag race?
Here's the problem.
Yes.
I would say the M2, but that means your scrotum's going to suffer while you're driving.
Yeah, so
I'm not kidding.
Oh, God, you're so right.
I'm so right about this.
Oh.
So the inside of the car, you have to watch the video to see this because we do show it in the video, has this unusual little cutout bolstered thing where your gentleman bits would go if you're a dude, or maybe not. And it's there to hurt you. It's there to go, you will drive the car as fast as possible. And it doesn't make any sense, and it's terrifying. And if you go too fast, it could hurt you. Or, well, if you hit the brakes.
So there are these performance seats, right, that a lot of the manufacturers now make. Which,
Yeah.
And, even like the Type R had, the last generation especially had them, right, where they're highly bolstered.
Yeah.
And people like me and Nathan simply don't fit in them.
Yeah,
They're not
too much man.
Yeah, they're not, yes, exactly. But here's what I was thinking about it. So like the Tesla Performance has the same seats that any Tesla Model 3 has,
Yeah.
right? And I took it for a long road trip. I drove it to Aspen last week.
Yeah.
And I drove it pretty spiritedly.
Yeah.
Incredible car for passing people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Incredible, because before they even know it, you're past them,
Yep.
and you don't scare them with any exhaust notes. So it's like,
Yeah.
boom, and you're gone.
Yeah, you're already gone.
Like,
and
you
it's
need
no
like
big deal.
20 feet to pass somebody legally, right? But when you take it around a turn, you start to feel how heavy it is, right? You start to feel the weight of the thing. It understeers, and you're like holding onto the steering wheel for dear life because you're flopping around on these seats. So I understand why they put those seats in like the M2, but we also have a Miata.
Yes.
And I was driving that very spiritedly around corners, perfect, right?
When you drive the Miata, do you look over the windshield? When you're
No,
driving?
we've got the NC, which is the 3rd generation. It's the biggest
okay.
one, so I can fit in that one. But it's got regular seats, and yet they hold you in place. You don't need bolsters. You don't need some funny plastic bit in between your legs.
That plastic, then I know it's some of you BMW fans are probably saying, well, that plastic thing is specifically to put a harness in there so you can actually have your proper 5-point. Great. I don't want it. I don't want it. Not at the expense of the gentleman bits. It doesn't make any sense.
You know, people are finally starting to come around. We're going to talk a little bit more about performance cars.
Yeah.
So I went to drive the Porsche, and I'm doing a Porsche show, sorry, but it is interesting. I went to drive the GT4 RS, right? So in Porsche world, right, there's the GT3, and then there's a GT4, which is the Cayman version of it, and then there's the RS version, which there's now a 911 RS, the new one, right?
Right.
And these are the most track-focused, track-worthy. And I drove this thing, and I thought to myself, I don't get this car. I don't understand why you would want this. It's like a race car for the road. And there's a lot of downsides to race cars, right? They're incredibly loud.
Yeah.
They're incredibly uncomfortable. They're incredibly skittish, right? They're not, when you're going around a racetrack, they just come into life. But when you're driving it in stop-and-go traffic, there's nothing more miserable than that. So I don't understand why, and everybody was like, oh, the RS, it's this wonderful thing that you have to have. I'm like, no, it's absolutely not something I'd ever want to drive on anything other than a racetrack.
And I would drive it daily if I was given one.
You would not.
Yes, I would.
You would-
Because
you would
it's
not.
macho.
You would not. You would drive it once, and then you try to put your wife in it.
Oh,
and
that's the best part. She would hate
She
it.
would bawl
She would
you out.
hate it, and that means I would drive it all the time. Oh, sorry, honey, I'm taking the Porsche. You
would
can't
not.
ride with me. Sorry, kids have to go in your car, not mine.
Hey, who wants to see that video? Putting Nathan in a GT4 RS.
Oh, Nathan does.
I would love to. Hey, Porsche, prove me wrong. Lend us the car.
Put the fat guy from TFL
We'll
inside
put
of it and
Nathan
see
in
what
it
happens.
for a week, and I bet you by the end of the week, your opinion will be.
My opinion's going to be wonderful.
Anyway, which of these two do you think won? The M2 or the Model 3?
The M3.
I'm not gonna tell you.
Which one? Well, so if it weren't for the pain that's done with the medieval contraption inside the M2, I would say the M2 has a real chance. Otherwise, I'm going to say the Tesla. So I'm going to say the Tesla.
Go to that video, alltfl.com. It's closer than
Who
you think.
did you get to drive the M2?
I wasn't there. Who was there? Who drove
It
the
was
M2?
Case and Tommy driving.
You put Case through this? Such a nice
Because he's one
kid.
of the few guys who can actually fit in that car properly. Because he actually works out.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, Case is in good shape, so he can actually get in there, fold himself in there, and fold himself out of there. I'm sorry, Case, for the pain you've been through.
You know what? You know what we look like? We look like two walruses, like
Slapping ourselves and getting in there.
jumping off the rocks. You know how they kind of do that. That's us.
Years ago,
getting
before
in.
we move on, speaking of BMW, we had the i8 on the track. And remember when we were trying to get in and out of it?
I remember it.
It was the most ridiculous thing because it has like these kind of butterfly doors, but the sill is about as,
14 feet long.
it's ridiculous. So in order to get out of that car and look good, you really have to be like an action hero in a movie or a gymnast.
You need a high jump pole. You need a plant
Even
jump pole.
Paul was just like scrambling in there. He was fine. But
Or you know how they do that like backward flip where they go over there?
what is that with the pole? You jump up
Yeah,
over
you need to do
backwards?
one of those and then land in the seat.
Yeah, seriously, it was the most ridiculous thing getting out. And there's a funny video of some rich guy who bought one and he could not get out of it. It was hysterical. Anyway, we should probably
Let's
move on.
go. Okay, number 3. Did you know, Nathan, that now, in case when on the program, there is a Chevy ZR2 Bison, but the Colorado.
The Colorado Bison. So this is the return of the ZR2 Colorado Bison. They had one before with the previous model. This one, all the bits have been recently updated to go onto this all-new Chevy Colorado with an all-new powertrain.
So Case got to go to Chevy's proving ground
Mm-hmm.
and actually get hands-on with it. Once again, alltfl.com. But somebody sent us an email asking us what mid-size trucks or what trucks have both a front and a rear differential locker, because this has both, right? It's a front and a rear.
Yeah, it does have a proper front locker.
So let's talk about that. If you really want to go seriously off-roading, what trucks can you buy? Let's start with mid-size trucks. So I can only think of 2 mid-size trucks.
Okay, the Gladiator.
Yep, and there's one more.
Mid-size truck, are you talking about the Jeep, the regular Wrangler? That doesn't count as a
No,
truck, right?
nope, come on. It's a new one. It's one of the.
So the mid-size.
The Tacoma doesn't have it. Only got a rear locker.
That's right, and then there's...
The Ranger Raptor.
Oh, the Ranger Raptor.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's also.
Does that have a proper front locker?
Yep, front and rear. And ironically, the regular Raptor no longer has it, or that torsion. How do you pronounce it?
Torsen.
Torsen front diff.
Yeah.
People are really.
Well, the Bronco has a locking front diff that you can get.
Yeah, the Bronco does.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they would
exactly
go back and forth.
Yeah. So
Then there's the full-size trucks.
yeah. Front and rear locker, dude.
Front and rear locker. Well, I know that a heavy-duty truck for sure is the Power Wagon.
That has it. Yep.
And a disconnecting front
So
sway bar.
the full-size trucks I could think of, actually one more mid-size truck if you count it, is that the Rivian. So the Rivian has 4 different motors, and you could get it to approximate, right? You could lock the front motors to turn at the same speed on each of the wheels as the rear.
Yeah, I suppose that would be considered one.
And the Hummer EV also has a front locker.
Yeah, I guess when it works.
So that leaves us maybe what, like 5 or 6 trucks? So
Yeah.
Power Wagon. And are we missing anything, Zach?
With a proper front locker.
Does the Super Duty Tremor doesn't have
No.
No.
So I guess apparently
None of the other ZR2s have it.
apparently all the rage. So you guys know we have a Raptor R, and I feel very grateful because apparently the Raptor Rs are sitting in Michigan not being delivered.
Yeah.
And Andre sent an email to Ford and asked them, and they came back. You can see that video, or I think it's on TFL Truck. They came back with a very political statement saying, we try our best to deliver trucks as efficiently as possible, but there was no reason given, like, hey, like we're missing the chip for the heated steering wheel, so we're waiting for those. That'd be nice, but none of that. Anyway, they're not out there, but everybody on the forums is wondering if the new front non-torsion locker is as good, because the way they do it in the current Raptor R is it the Raptor as well, or is it just Raptor R? It's both, right?
I'm pretty sure
It's both, yeah. So they use basically electronic software to approximate by braking, locking it, right? So what
Yeah,
happens
so
is when one of the wheels starts spinning,
You lock it.
they lock it, yeah, which has never proved to be as good as actually having a real locker.
Yeah, it's not mechanical, but I mean, but they use
Very
that
cool.
in everything from crossovers and even, all the way, cars, all the way up to full-blown trucks.
So people want us to compare that to the previous setup. It seems like a really cool video. I'd love to do it, but if you guys can lend us the previous generation Raptor, we'd love to compare it to the Raptor R. So if you have one, info at TFL Truck, and we'll take it to the ranch and we'll see if we can compare the two.
There you go.
There you go. All right, number 2, Nathan, before we get to answer your questions. This is something that is very exciting because it's happening this week. Actually, no, sorry, number 2 is the Denver 100. I screwed that up.
So the Denver 100.
What's the Denver 100?
That just happened.
Yeah.
We just put that out.
Well, this is a 100-mile loop that Mr. Truck and Mr. Baby Truck, also known as Andre, undertook with a Chevy Silverado heavy duty, towing a rather heavy load. And yeah, it was a 100-mile loop.
Yeah, so we created a 100-mile loop of Denver where we're going to be running trucks, especially heavy-duty trucks, because as you know, Nathan, the EPA does not rate fuel economy on heavy-duty trucks. And
So you guys are at the mercy of either trying to guesstimate or talking to other people. We're going to do our best to come up with some mileage numbers that we can duplicate if possible on this loop.
So the boys loaded up our skid steer, 11,000 pounds, and took it on a 100-mile MPG loop. That video was very popular. It had 150,000 views last time I checked, to find out what kind of fuel economy you get while towing. And I didn't watch the end of it, so I don't know what fuel economy they got. Do you know?
No, I don't.
So you're gonna have to go watch it. All right, and number 1, and this is, I think, the most exciting thing that we're doing, at least, is D2D. And so as you know, if you've been following TFL, Nathan and I decided to create our own, I shouldn't say our own, a new cannonball for electric vehicles.
Yes.
Where we drove from Disney in California to Disney in Orlando. And both of those are in Orlando, are in Orange County. So we didn't go up right from Disney because
We went from a fountain in Orange County, California, to a fountain in Orange County, Florida, next to the Disneylands.
Yeah, so you got to touch the fountain in Old Orange in California.
That's
and you got to
correct.
touch the fountain in downtown Orlando, and that's the end of it. So beginning to end, you can do it either way.
And you can watch that video. It's on. There's a couple of videos on TFL EV and TFLnow.
Yeah, it's on EV
Yeah.
now. And we did it because we wanted to basically create a very hard test for electric vehicles. And we didn't want to use a traditional cannonball, which goes from New York to Santa Monica because it's in the north, and people do illegal speed limits. And here what we're trying to do is see how fast we can do it, but it really becomes all about charging strategy, right?
Right. So if you go too fast, you're going to blow your power too quickly. So you actually have to, in many cases, go under the speed limit in order just to make it from one point to another.
Yeah, and it's a really difficult test, and we set a new, the first record of 46 hours and 46 minutes. Our friend Nicole and Eileen tried to break that. We did it in the Attic 5. They had what did they do it in?
They did it in the
EV6, yeah.
But they couldn't make it.
They couldn't make it. They hit a really bad thunderstorm and almost 2/3 of the way in Louisiana.
Yeah, they had to stop.
And so starting Wednesday, very early in the morning, Andre and Tommy are going to try to break our record in the Tesla.
Yeah, now the Tesla has a lot of advantages going in. Aside from the fact it's got killer range, they also have the Tesla supercharger network.
Yeah.
And that is where I think they're going to absolutely annihilate our record. And that's kind of the point, because what we want to do is we want to set the bar for CCS charging, which is going to be around for a while, whether you like it or not, and then the Tesla charging, of course. And we wanted to do it in a vehicle that does quite well with CCS, and that, of course, would have been the Ioniq 5 that we drove, which has an 800-volt architecture, which can, from time to time, charge quickly, depending on the charger. And then, of course, doing it with Tesla. And I think the Tesla is going to outperform in almost every way. The question is, by how much?
Yeah, so our record is 46.46. We'd love for you guys to actually try to crack that record.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, once again, the more the merrier. Let's see how electric cars have improved over the next 5-10 years. You want to do it in a gas car.
I do. I just want, because I want to set a bar for gas cars.
You want to set a car,
The
right?
reason why is because once we have that, then we have all these bases of comparison for the exact same route or a very similar route. And I think that in itself would be great for just data.
Yeah, of course the issue is with a gas car is do you do the speed limit or do you go all cannonball-y?
Well, here's the problem. If it's going to, it's got to be a small, light, underpowered little car. Think, Nissan Versa or Kicks or perhaps a Mitsubishi Mirage, which everybody loves. Those things don't really go very fast to begin with. And in order for you to get to the farthest point, stretch it out so you have to do the least amount of gas stops, you do have to actually maintain a fairly level-headed speed. You go over 7,000 RPM all the time, or whatever you're going to do in 7,000, you're going to really blow your range, and that goes for gas cars as well. So the bottom line is, no, I'm not going to speed. I'm actually going to take it easy, but try to go quickly at the same time.
But that's not a cannonball, then it's
No, but it is, because my gas stops, the difference is cannonballs, these guys have special gas tanks. They load up for, 1,000 miles.
Yeah,
We're doing this in a factory vehicle. That's
three
going to,
fuzzbusters.
yeah, I'm not doing any of that. I don't need to. These cars aren't going to be fast to begin with. Okay.
Anyway, we'd love you guys to try the EV one.
Absolutely, and it's happening very soon. And where's it happening?
So they're leaving from Old Orange like 5 in the morning on Wednesday because they're going to try to do it so they don't have to drive over 2 nights. And if all goes well, they should arrive into Orlando at like 2 in the morning.
That's if all
On
goes
Friday.
well. And who knows, maybe they'll go even faster. But it's happening on TFL EV, our all-electric channel, which has just passed 100,000 subscribers, I believe, just recently.
Yeah, and so you can keep up with those guys on alltfl.com. If you see them at the supercharger, we kind of did up our Tesla with D2D.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the one behind me. It's got some stickers on it. It looks cool.
We stickered it up. So we'd love for you guys to, see if they can break mine and Nathan's record. They're going to have a really good time, I think.
Tommy loves bear hugs and red licorice. And
Red
chocolate
Bull.
milk. And yeah, they're going to need it.
So him and Andre are going to be doing this. So if you see him, say hi to him for us. And we've got some swag, so maybe they'll give you some swag.
Yeah,
All
there
right,
you go.
all right.
We've got a bonus.
Yeah, we got a bonus, and that is our man Zach over there, who's producing this, has been doing a really great job in doing some great reviews over at TFLcar.com. He's the managing editor of that. And the most recent vehicle that he's reviewed, look at that picture he took. How
It's an
beautiful is
absolutely
that?
gorgeous picture.
Yeah, that is the new
Zach
Prius.
is an accomplished photographer as well. So this is a very detailed review. Our reviews on TFL Car are only getting better with his tutelage, and we're definitely moving him in such a direction that we're punching above our weight. You guys are going to read real world from real people reviews on these cars.
All right, Zach, what are the questions that we can answer?
So going back to the D2D one for a second.
Yeah.
Mark was saying, how about a West Coast loop from San Diego to Vancouver, so up I-5 and through bits of Canada into British Columbia?
Perhaps
That would
one.
be really cool. That'd be a great scenic route.
It would be, and especially because the temperature variance could be amazing. It could go from like a nice warm
Sounds like a
sunny
beautiful
day.
road trip.
Yeah,
The problem with these cannonballs is you spend about half the time driving at night.
yeah.
You don't see a lot.
And the other issue could be going over the border. So we would love to do something like that, but right now we're just getting on our baby steps doing this. So hopefully we'll get to that point. By the way, if you want some stuff from up north, we did a Ford F-150 Lightning and took it all the way up to Alaska to Prudhoe Bay. These guys drove it, and that's Northern Lightning. That's a whole series that you can catch.
And plus, we wanted to do a southern route because batteries hate being cold, so this is something you can do year-round. Otherwise, it becomes one of these things where you can only do it in the summer.
Right,
Or,
yeah.
or if you want to break the record, you can only do it in the summer. We want to be able to give you a crack to do it any time of the year.
Yeah, for the most part, other than say in the middle of winter, you should be able to have similar performance with your battery doing the southern route. That's kind of our thought. Anything else?
Yeah, we can get into the ones that weren't directly related to
Yes,
what we're
please.
talking
Yeah.
about. Well, actually, one was, when will you test the Chevy Colorado ZR2 Bison?
Hell yeah.
Hopefully is sometime within the next couple of months.
Yeah,
That's really up to GM, not up to us.
Yeah.
yeah. But we usually cover vehicles like that. They seem to be hip to letting us try them.
Same goes for, we were getting requests for the 4x4 manual version of the 2024 Toyota Tacoma and the Tacoma Trail Hunter.
So the Tacoma drive won't be until sometime in the fall. 'Cause
Yeah.
The truck doesn't come out till the end of the year, so that won't happen. But this week, actually this month, we are going to be testing and reviewing 2 new trucks.
That's right.
The Silverado EV, Andre and I are doing that, and Case and Andre are doing the new Ford Super Duty. So those 2 programs are happening, yeah.
There's other programs right around the corner too. Some of them we're not allowed to talk about, but you'll be surprised as to how many programs are going to be popping on your
Which basically
channel.
means how many new vehicles we'll be testing.
Yeah, there's several that are coming out in the very near future. Anything else?
There was a question early on in the show, kind of up my street, me being TFL's resident Mazda fanboy. What's with the new 6-cylinder engine and the Mazda 6? So supposedly, Mazda is going to do a new Mazda 6 on its rear-wheel drive platform like the CX-90 SUV with that 3.3 liter 6-cylinder turbo engine.
Is it also going to be a hybrid? Maybe.
People are more excited about the straight 6 turbo. Honestly, I'm skeptical that they're actually going to do it.
Mm.
The rumor mill is a buzz, but sedans just don't sell.
Isn't there a rumor
That's
about?
why we're seeing the CX-90 first. We'll see the CX-70 sometime in the next few months. Go ahead.
Isn't there a new rumor about the new rotary coming back, or there's some talk of the rotary being brought back?
There's been talk of the rotary
Like
coming
a
back
range-
ever since Mazda killed the RX-8.
RX-9?
No, I think range extender.
It's not going to
Yeah,
happen.
no.
It's just not, particularly with the way Mazda's been going. They're wanting to become a more upscale premium brand.
Yeah,
That's what the CX-90 is meant for. It's meant to be the big push toward that premium.
I think they're pretty successful at that, actually.
Yeah, they did a great job with that car, but the rotary just doesn't make sense in a lot of different ways. So the only application in which we're seeing it right now is in the MX-30, the rotary extended version of the MX-30.
Which isn't here yet in the United
You know,
States.
you know what Mazda suffers from? It's like they're never like top of mind, right? So people email us and they'll be like, I need a mid-size crossover, you know, and the obvious answers come to mind. You'll be like CR-V, RAV4, but nobody ever thinks of the Mazda, and yet the Mazda is as good, if not better than both of those, right?
I've owned 5 Mazdas.
Yeah.
And Zach's owned several Mazdas as well, and 4.
Four.
And honestly, they are one of these unsung companies. There are a couple problems. Lack of dealerships.
Yeah, there's
a
only-
real problem in other states.
Yeah, they don't
Not
have
so bad here. And then the other problem is lack of recognition. You're absolutely right. But they build cars that really do feel like they're built around you.
And they're built to be driven.
Yes,
they're built to
exactly.
be fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't like unfun cars, and yeah, we've owned several because they're well made. They get great mileage and they're fun.
All right, well, let's get a couple more questions and we'll wrap this up. So we'll see it. By the way, if you like this format, we're trying to keep it kind of just loose, have you involved, kind of bring you up to date on the latest
Yeah.
news, but it really is kind of an open format. So let us know if you like it or if you don't like it and we should be continuing it or not. Any other questions, Zach, before we wrap it up?
One quick one, and then one
Yeah.
we can talk about for a couple minutes. Will the 2024 Tacoma Extra Cab, and by that I mean access
Right.
cab Mark does, the shorter version,
Right?
with the 6-speed manual transmission, 4x4 be an option? I believe it will be.
So the thing about the 6-speed is it's only available in the non-hybrid.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
Lower
so
trims.
I think really the question you should be asking is not will it be available, but will they make it, right? Because that's what it comes down to. There's going to be so much demand for that truck. And one of the things that's been happening recently, and you know this, Nathan, you know this too, Zach, is manufacturers have been in a sneaky way getting rid of the base versions of their vehicles. I'll give you a perfectly good example of that. You know, we wanted to buy a Silverado EV, and there's 4 versions of there. There's the work truck, WT1, WT2, WT3, WT4, and the only one that's available initially is a WT3 and WT4, and those are $70,000 trucks.
Yeah.
So-
Suddenly, it's no longer a work truck.
Yeah, and so I think the same thing's happening across the board, and so all those base vehicles, they in theory exist, but in reality, I don't know, because they make a lot more money by selling the Trail Hunter, the TRD Pro, right, as opposed to the SR.
Yeah. However,
Right.
I will give Toyota props. In the past, they have
They have been
managed.
good about that.
Yeah. I mean, even right now, you can get the current 4-cylinder. You can still get. You can get a lot of those types of trucks. Now, this is what I've heard is that there's just a couple base models really out there with Toyota. And bear in mind, when you get the base model, you're getting the one with the regular leaf springs in the back, so you don't have the coils like all the other ones. And you also have the very base turbo engine. It's not something you can plug in and suddenly get more power out of either. It's a different engine, even though the displacement's the same. So whether or not that actually goes all the way up to a 4-wheel drive with that package, I don't know. I do know that yes, you can get a rear drive, you can get the pre-runner with a locking rear diff, and still rear drive.
And let's not be unfair to the manufacturers. The dealers are just as culpable in this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because first of all, Toyota doesn't decide necessarily what they're going to build. The dealers are their end customers, so they're the ones who place the orders, and then those orders could be from customers or they could be from the dealer itself.
That's correct.
Right, and they're going to be ordering the top of the line as well because they're going to make more money selling the TRD Pro or the Trail Hunter. And so once again, it's not necessarily what the market wants, but what the manufacturer wants, what the dealer wants. And if the dealer doesn't want manual transmission trucks, because they think that let's face it, there may be. The dealers are very conservative, right? That's why we've got such a boring color palette, right? You go look at like fleet trucks, they're all white, silver, or black.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and that's because even though it'd be cool to have a red fleet trucks, apparently people don't want red because you can't stick a sign on it.
Yeah, true. However, Toyota, and I did talk to, I forgot his name, starts with an S, one of the designers, but he was also someone who was very much dialed into what Toyota's doing, and they do expect an uptick in manual transmission orders based on the fact that this is an all-new powertrain, an all-new truck, a lot more power, and perhaps a lot more fun. And Saul, was that his name? Andre interviewed him.
Okay.
Anyway, so that is what they're looking at. So yes, there's going to be dealers who are like, I'm not interested in that, but you can still go online and order your truck and have it delivered. You can do that, but it just takes a lot longer. You have to be super patient. Okay? Anything else?
Sure, there's another question real quick. Do you think we'll get a Ford Maverick Raptor?
No.
Ford can't hardly build the Mavericks that already exist.
Yeah, this week, more news, Jim Farley came out this week, CEO of Ford, and said that he doesn't think that they can deliver the 2023 orders they have of the Maverick, which is also astounding. Here's a question. Oh gosh, let's just dive into this one, okay? All right. I'm going to ask you, Nathan.
Fire away.
Why does the Escape even exist?
Because people still buy them. It's the number 5 selling vehicle in its class.
I mean, wouldn't you buy a Bronco Sport all day long, which is the same chassis, as opposed? I saw an Escape the other day, and I didn't even know that thing. I did a video on it. It was at the LA Auto Show.
They facelifted it.
But they facelifted it. They didn't have a program for it. I don't know why it exists. All day long, I would get the Bronco Sport over the Escape. Just take the resources that you're building these vehicles, and then put it into making more Mavericks.
But Escape is still strong in fleet sales. In rental car fleets, you'll see those everywhere.
And bear in mind, they do have more space inside of them. They are larger. They also have a hybrid version. They also have a plug-in version.
So here's another one. Why don't they give people what they want? Both the Maverick and the Escape. Well, the Escape has it, but the Maverick doesn't. Why can't you get a 4-wheel drive hybrid in the Maverick?
I agree. That's a mistake, and I think they're trying to fix that. But the bottom line is that
how are they trying to fix it?
Ford has an unqualified hit on their hands, more so than they ever expected with the Maverick.
Okay.
They never expected it to be as popular as it is right now. And for them, they're scratching their heads. Also, if you look at last year's sales on the Ford Ranger, which dropped through the toilet, and then you look at the Maverick sales, which went up, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Now, new Ranger's coming out, so perhaps we'll be able to level off.
Are you saying that the Maverick cannibalize sales of the Ranger?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, not in all cases, but in some cases, absolutely. And I think that Ford will be able to get some equal footing with these more powerful, potent versions of the Ranger.
I mean, you're right. Ford is on a roll.
They absolutely are killing it.
One hit after another. But you don't want to hurt. The worst thing you can do is create this huge hit and then not be able to fulfill the orders.
Which is exactly what's just happened.
Yeah, which is that's.
You guys want to know one of the reasons why I got the Santa Cruz instead of the Ford?
You couldn't get one.
I could not get the Ford that I wanted anytime within this year, and that was one of the issues. Immediately it turned me off, and I know a lot of you guys felt the same way. Anyway, the point is that I agree with you, and Ford should be preparing for this, but also Ford is spending billions of dollars on their blue oval city, which is going to be building nothing but electric vehicles in the very near future. And so they're pushing a lot of that, and they're kind of cutting their company in half to make it happen.
All right, speaking of that, let's ask one more question. Last week they announced that they were going to, and we're not sure whether they're going to replace the CCS with the Tesla standard or they're going to have both plugs, right? But Ford has partnered with Tesla to allow Ford vehicles to use a supercharger network and at some point to have the Tesla standard. What is that? NSA? I know, it's, I know, yeah. I know.
Or whatever the Tesla one
NSA,
is.
whatever
the-
it is,
I'll
yeah.
get it, I'll get it.
Yeah, he'll get it.
Anyway.
A standard. And then, of course, they announced it on Twitter because everything now has to happen on Twitter for some reason.
Because
NACS.
NACS, I was close.
Yeah.
Right? They announced it on Twitter, and then all the journalists went and asked Ford PR, is it going to replace it? Is it going to have both? And Ford PR was like, let's get back to you.
They did one of these things where they put their hands in the air like, I surrender, because they just didn't have anything to say.
But we'll force other manufacturers to do
I
this.
think so.
So who's the next manufacturer? I mean,
Oh, General Motors.
you think?
Yeah,
I think Ram.
Maybe Ram, but I think General
Stellantis,
Motors,
yeah.
because General Motors has a larger, deeper pockets, and they can make that switch happen overnight. And I think that they will do it either. I think what they're going to do is give you a choice. So your CCS, which the car will come with, basically will have a hookup where you can
Adapter.
plug in the adapter, and it'll do the handshake without a problem. And that would be very good business for Tesla, and it'd be very good business for General Motors.
All right, Jack, last question.
So the last question pertains to something we're actually gonna be seeing here in the next few days, the 2024 Lexus GX.
Yes.
That's you, yeah.
Yes, I'm going to Texas, to Plano, where Toyota is headquartered, where we are going to be seeing the GX, and I think they've already teased the other one, right?
The TX.
The TX.
Three-row crossover.
So the word on the street is that the TX is a Grand Highlander that's been Lexified. I don't know if that's true, but that would make logical sense. And
Yeah.
the GX, of course, is the newest version of their, I would say, most off-road worthy Lexus you can have.
Without a doubt, and it's
Yeah.
been around for a very long time. We've talked about it before. It's still used. It's still just a fantastic vehicle to buy and turn into an off-roader, or more off-road capable vehicle, I should say.
So me and Ian, who's sitting back behind the camera, are going down on Wednesday. So Thursday, expect TX and GX news on all TFL.
There you go. And that's going to put an end to this live broadcast, guys. Thank you. We'll try to research this a little bit later on and look at some of your comments when this becomes a regular video, and maybe answer a few more questions. But for the most part, I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay safe out there.
See you next time. Ciao.
Bye.